Hey guys, what's up? This is T.Mayne. Super awesome to have you guys back on this YouTube channel if you are returning, and if you are here for the first time, definitely do hit the subscribe button because you will be notified when content like this does come out so that you're on top of it first before anyone else. Now guys, to get going, I highly encourage you guys to actually watch the video first. See if you guys actually enjoyed the analysis, enjoyed the pairs that we're getting into, and then leave your like at the end of this video after you've actually gained some sort of value from this content. Now guys, these are the pairs that we're going to get into. The dollar index, sorry about that, the dollar index, Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss franc, Aussie yen, Aussie dollar, CAD yen, Swiss yen, New Zealand dollar CAD, USDZAR, and gold. These are the pairs that we're going to get into today, guys. So let's kick things off with our DXY analysis. Now, guys, I'm going to try and keep this analysis as detailed as possible and as informative as possible, guys. I want to make sure that even if you guys are watching this video after these moves have happened, that you're still able to gain so much value, gain all the tools, understand the tools, the concepts that we use to first of all break down a market, develop a bias, and then look at structural levels, important structural levels, and then find points of interest where those probabilities and where we'll be able to find those trading opportunities in the directions that support our bias and that align with the structure that we've observed and that we've picked out. So let's get into the DXY analysis, guys. So from a weekly perspective, we don't really have to go up to the weekly chart. We'll be able to see these weekly swing highs. We'll be able to see one time frame above and one time frame below, whichever time frame we're looking at. So weekly swings, we have that swing low, swing high, this swing low down there. So we know from a weekly perspective, guys, market is at this previous weekly support that will now turn into, or that could now potentially turn into, resistance. So we do understand that from a weekly perspective, there are weekly market participants that are looking at these areas over here as areas of value for potential selling opportunities. Now let's go down onto, or let's just look at the most recent price action here on the daily, just so that we can discuss what our daily structure is looking like. So our daily structure, guys, we have this swing low down there, swing high, higher low, and higher high. So we understand from a daily perspective that prices are still going to be considered bullish as long as we remain above these previous support areas over there, guys. So daily price action, guys, is bullish. Yes, weekly price action is bearish, but daily price action has been violating structural highs to the upside and creating higher structure. So now let's look at the H4 structure. Based off what we understand from the weekly and the daily, we're going to develop or create a bias for ourselves and look for trading opportunities in the direction of that bias. So here on the daily, guys, what we can see, we have swing lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, equal highs, equal lows, and equal highs. So what we can see, major levels of structure, we've already drawn them in there for you guys. All of this analysis is basically on our charts from yesterday's live session with the members. So we discussed everything that we're discussing right now with you guys, but I just wanted to spread the value and make sure everyone gets all of the meat. So anyway, guys, major levels of structure are these previous lows down there and these lows that were tested twice. So if we want to be sellers, guys, buyers, we want to let price, or we want to see price pulling into levels of structure, important levels of structure. Now I know because we did this yesterday, there is some Fibonacci confluence that is going on over here. If we measure from that swing low to this swing high, we can see that this level of structure aligns almost perfectly with our 0.618 Fib retracement level. So we know that there's a lot of interest that's going to be at this area over here. At least there's going to be some buying interest from a structural perspective, and as well as all of those Fibonacci traders and whatever psychological reasons the Fibonacci retracement actually works. So there'll be a lot of buying interest in these areas here. So what we're going to be waiting for on the DXY is to see prices actually either pull down into these areas over here, or to see prices pull into these areas down low before those buying opportunities that might present themselves on the DXY. Obviously, we're going to be watching how does price actually approach these areas. If we approach impulsively, then we are waiting to see all of those buyers exit the market in form of a reversal structure to the upside. Otherwise, if we approach in a corrective manner, then we know that we are okay to look for those risk entries for the continued momentum to the upside. So that's what we're going to be looking for, guys. This is the level of interest that we might be looking for buying opportunities out of DXY next week. Why won't we be buying from these areas here is because, guys, we are at a weekly resistance area, and there could be some weekly market participants that might want to sell from these areas. So whatever we're expecting to happen quick and fast in these areas might just take a while and might just accumulate to get all of those weekly orders in to see where the market is going to be going from a weekly perspective as well. So just keeping that in mind, guys, if we want to be buyers, let's buy from lower prices. Maybe even if prices pull down into these levels of structure down here, then we look to be buyers. Otherwise, if we want to be sellers, maybe now is the right time to be sellers, but obviously you want to wait for a lot more clear sell buyer structure to form before you actually capitalize on that selling opportunity, guys. But I'm going to be looking for buying opportunities out of the DXY in the coming week. Let's go on to the next pair. That's Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD, let's go up to the daily. So daily, guys, what we can see is that we have some weekly structure, swing high, swing low, swing high up top there. So we can see from a weekly perspective that prices are at this previous resistance that could now turn into some support. Now, if we zoom in on the price action and just take into account what our most recent price action says on the daily, let's just get this drawing tool again. What we can see is that we have this swing high, swing low, swing high, and prices have violated this previous swing low on a daily perspective. So we do see some sellers coming into this market, stepping in, saying, I am willing to violate prices to the downside because I think prices are overvalued and these are great areas to sell from. So we can see that happening. Also, if we look at let's just say, now we'll go on to the H4 for that. We don't want to complicate things. Let's go on to the H4 for that. So H4, let's just get down on there quickly. What we can see is that H4 structure is bearish. Let's look at our H4 structure. Let's get this drawing tool. From this peak formation high, we basically saw prices push down, create that swing low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Now what I want to point out about this structure, yes, prices are bearish as long as we remain below these previous swing highs, but I want us to look at this last swing low that we see over there. Prices did violate the swing low to the downside and then break back within structure. Whenever we see prices breaking levels of structure and breaking back within levels of structure, then that shows us that obviously not like in this case where sellers brought prices to the downside, violated the prices to the downside and were able to sustain the momentum by keeping prices from actually breaking these previous support levels that now turned into resistance. Unlike in that case, in this case, we see sellers not able to keep buyers from pushing prices higher. So then again, what we can see, let's just slap on one trend line over there just so that we can see or get a little bit more information on what could be happening here. We do see, or what it looks like prices kind of were correcting into this support structure. Remember, we spoke about this weekly support structure, previous weekly resistance that will now turn into, or that could be support, the way we could see some weekly market participants showing some buying interest. We can just point out quickly, just to develop or say what we're going to do over in the coming week. What we can see is a potential buying opportunity. Now, we spoke about these resistance areas. We do see that it was a swap level, first support, then resistance, and now the market is above this area once again. So we could be seeing basically higher prices pushing from these areas over here. I don't want to be buying straight into this market on Monday. What I would love to see actually maybe is a stop hunt below these areas of low here that the market was creating, maybe into this support structure here, maybe even to create a larger structure, double bottom. But I would really love to see prices actually just poke down into these levels here and then give me that move to the upside that I'm hoping to capitalize on first. So guys, I'm going to be bullish bias on Aussie CAD, looking for buying opportunities first. I don't know how the market is going to give me that buying opportunity, but I'm going to be looking at prices to show me those bullish rejections and maybe even violations of structure, followed by some continuation structures for that move to the upside, guys. Obviously, because this could be considered to be a larger time frame or a long corrective structure, end targets could be at the 90% rule of the structure, but I would want to actually look to exit at these previous levels of structure that we do see being respected by the market. So if I do manage to find a risk to reward ratio of 1:3 in this area over here, I'm definitely going to try and look to exit my full position when prices do approach those areas there. I'm obviously going to be looking at how prices approach. If prices approach nice and impulsively, then I might be looking to extend targets, but if prices approach correctively, then I might want to get out of the market and then start to look for that long-term selling opportunity that we discussed, as H4 structure is bullish as long as we remain below these previous levels of structure over there. So we could get this buying opportunity first and then later on that selling opportunity. But as of now, guys, I'm going to be going into Monday with a bullish bias on Aussie CAD. Let's go on to Aussie Swiss franc. Go up to the daily chart. So guys, from a daily, I guess we can point out this weekly resistance over there. Very far for us to even begin to talk about right now. So let's just talk about the most recent price action. We do see a nice introduction of sellers coming in there, two nice red impulsive candles to the downside. So let's just go down onto the H4 just so that we can make things a lot more clear. Look at the levels, kind of refine what we are looking at. So there's this intro of sellers coming in over there. We do see prices sort of correcting currently. What we can see in terms of structure is that we have that high, this low, we have equal highs, we have a higher low, we've violated structure to the upside. We could be creating a higher low and then violating prices one more time to the upside before we actually get that move to the downside for a beautiful selling opportunity. So what I'm essentially waiting for are for prices to first pull higher, give me that third touch, and then show me that reversal for the selling opportunity, obviously with my targets being at the 90% rule of the structure. If prices don't pull to the upside immediately from this area for that selling opportunity, then I will wait for prices to violate structures to the downside and then show me that reversal structure before I begin to look for a selling opportunity, guys. So I am sell bias on Aussie Swiss franc. I'm going to be waiting for prices to actually involve me in this momentum here that we saw happening there, either in the form of prices pushing higher to give me the third touch of this corrective structure, first touch there, second touch there, third touch over here, either in that form, or if prices violate to the downside and then give me that retest, then I will be looking for my selling opportunity. Nonetheless, I'm going to be going to next week with a sell bias on Aussie Swiss franc, guys. Let's go into AUDJPY. Now, Aussie yen, guys, unfortunately, so I have actually analyzed this pair and I'm gonna paste the second video on top of this video. What happened is that the intro to this video, actually there was no sound, so I had to redo it. So we're back on this pair that we did actually start analyzing before. So I'm just going to go quickly over this pair and then just slap on the second half or the continuation of the analysis on this pair. So just speaking about things from a weekly perspective, let's get this drawing tool. We do see weekly swing highs there, swing lows, swing highs at that point, swing lows, and now we have potential equal highs, and we're expecting prices to basically push down from these areas, at least to come and test these previous structural lows down there, or maybe even violate structure and come and test these weekly resistance areas over there. So we're going into this with a sell bias. I think I'm going to slap on the second half so that you guys can see a detailed view of this setup that we're looking for. So looking at what the structure looks like right now, we're actually going to, well, we could actually just see a potential reversal structure. I know a lot of people are looking at this potential head and shoulder structure here. That's exactly what I'm looking at as well. So maybe this is the setup that's going to present itself, guys. We could be looking to sell high at these previous resistance areas up top over there. This is where our selling probabilities might come in. Obviously, we look to see how does this market get to these areas here, and what do we do when we get into these areas here. So obviously we're going to be looking for those reversal structures or signs of weakness from these areas here for that potential long move to the downside, targeting these extremes down here first, because we can see that a lot of accumulation happened in these areas over here. So obviously all the buyers that have essentially won this battle to the upside are going to be looking to protect their positions when prices get to these areas here. So maybe we even want to take our full position when we actually get somewhere in this area here, and then look to re-enter once we see a retest of this head and shoulder structure itself. But nonetheless, guys, let's not go too far into that. Let's just wait for structure to actually give us this entry that we're looking for this potential head and shoulder structure on Aussie yen. So yeah, guys, remember, once we see prices violate structure to the upside, violate structure back, then we know something is going on there. Buyers are not able to keep prices above structural levels that they've created, so we could see a potential reversal in maybe the balance that's going on between buyers and sellers. So let's go down onto the next pair, that's Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, let's go up to the daily. So guys, daily structure looks almost exactly the same as I'd say Aussie yen. We won't really go into our larger time frame structure. I think that taking quite a lot of time right now. We want this video to be as short as possible with as much value as possible, so let's just do it like that. So on the daily, guys, what we can see, a lot of people are looking at a head and shoulder structure here. I am also looking at a head and shoulder structure over there, something sort of like that. So but I actually just refined this to my most recent price action. So if you go down onto the H4, what we can see is obviously looking at structure, looking at the major swing highs and swing lows. We have that swing low, we have that swing high, we have a swing low, we have this, we have this, we have this. So looking at this, guys, prices, the previous swing high that prices formed on the H4 are these prices over here. I just pressed the wrong thing. I thought I was deleting. Are these prices over here? That's why we have that resistance area marked out there. So as long as prices stay below that area, guys, this is going to be considered a sell bias structure. Though what we can see here is that if we look at just these most recent swings, guys, prices have been sort of bullish, and so if we look at just the most recent price action, structure is kind of not aligning because it's bullish as long as we remain above these highs here, because we don't want to change the concepts that we're using just to support our bias. We want to observe, we want to see exactly what price is doing and then kind of align ourselves according to what the price is actually doing. So guys, if we want to be long-term sell bias on this pair, considering all of the stuff that we spoke about that's happening on these higher time frames, then we obviously have to be looking for some sell bias structure. So what can we see if we do look for some sell bias structure? So let's just start off by adding our support structures in there. So we have the support trend line down low. Where can we draw our resistance trend line? Now obviously it would be way too weird for us to be drawing our resistance trend line from this high and this high. This kind of wouldn't look very neat or whatever. So because we can't draw a resistance trend line, obviously we'll be looking at these previous structural highs, because remember, this could just turn into some sort of a triple top, one top, two tops, three tops. We might even see a nice reversal structure at this third top. Obviously it's going to be a lot more clear on a higher time frame. Even if you see that manipulation to the upside followed by something like this, this is going to be something that we will be able to observe on those higher time frames. So if we're looking to be sell bias, obviously we should be looking for something that maybe supports sell bias structure, something similar to this, guys. Otherwise, if we want to be buyers in this pair at this point, this is about the right time where we should be buyers, because considering bias structure, we do have this inverted head and shoulders. So we're going to go over both structures to support both biases in this case, because we might find opportunities on both sides, because we're going to be reading what price action is actually going to tell us. what price does in these areas here, what price does in those areas there. That's going to give us the information on whether we should be going for those maybe intraday buys, intraday sells. Obviously, we want to be trading in the direction of our long-term bias, which is sells in this point, considering that some structure has been violated. We are seeing sell bias structure with this head and shoulders on our higher time frames. So maybe we want to be trading in that direction for long-term probabilities, but that doesn't cut out all of the short-term opportunities that a pair might present. So sell bias structure, guys, if we do look at this head and shoulder structure over here, I'm just gonna draw this, put this trend line over there. What we can see is that prices have essentially kind of, maybe you would say, broke into structure. So if prices do break out of structure and then show signs of commitment, wrong tool, now I'm going to indicators. What's going on now? There we go. If prices do break out of structure and then show some signs of commitment, then you might have that buying probability on your side for that opportunity to the upside, because we have seen some prices violating structures very nice and impulsively to the upside. So as long as prices really remain above these highs here, really short-term bias is going to be to the upside, guys. So you could be looking for those buying opportunities. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to be, maybe I'll just observe price action to see what happens in these areas here, but I might be waiting for the selling opportunity to really present itself, because I see longer term possibilities of longer term momentum to the downside. So that's probably what I'm going to be looking for, guys, but that doesn't mean you can't be buying from these areas here. We have discussed some buy scenarios for you guys if you want to be a buyer in these areas over here. So let's go into this next week. Just observe price action and act on whatever price is showing us with your own bias on this pair. Let's go on to CAD yen. Let's make sure this thing is still recording, because someone did actually give me a dial just a while ago and it stopped recording and I was still talking. So yeah, guys, let's go. Daily chart, guys. CAD yen, I'm going to be very quick, because this pair, guys, we're looking to be sell biased in this bullish, really bullish structure. So I'm just going to go straight down onto our H4 and we'll just quickly talk about it, because there's really not much we can say because everything is bullish. And if we want to be sell biased, then we need to wait for some sell bias structure to actually form. So all we're going to do here on CAD yen is just wait, because structure is extremely bullish right now. So what we're waiting for here is for a lower high to be formed in the somewhere obviously below these previous structural lows, and then we want to see these lows being violated to the downside. And once we see this 1, 2, 3 move to the downside, then we're going to start looking for our sell bias structure or some sell entries to the downside. That's the only point I'm going to be trading CAD yen. Otherwise, for now, guys, I'm still very reluctant on switching or having a bullish bias on this pair at this point in time. Maybe I will have a bullish bias when prices do get into these weekly support areas down there. But anyway, guys, for now, I'm waiting for sell bias structure to form so that I can take those selling opportunities. Let's go on to Swiss yen. Let's go up to the daily. So Swiss yen, guys, very interesting pair. Not gonna go through the long-term analysis, but I guess maybe this is still relevant. Left shoulder, head, potential right shoulder over there. So we're obviously looking back at the past at these levels of structure there. But guys, just to refine what we're looking at, we're going to go down onto the H4 and look at the most current price action here, because this is where our bias is essentially being formed off. What we can see, looking at structure, guys, or looking at price action rather, we can see that these previous highs were important swing highs that we were looking at. Prices did come into these areas, but if you look at how prices came into these areas, nice and correctively, and we have essentially violated some structure, some support areas to the downside on the H4. So we want to be sell bias on this pair. What we're waiting for, guys, is that entry for a sell. So we're either going to be looking for a corrective structure to form to allow us to jump into the trade, or we're going to be waiting for prices to actually pull into these previous resistance areas or these previous support areas that we are now expecting to be resistance for that move to the downside and the sell bias continuation. So these are the setups that we're basically looking for this sell bias continuation to the downside, considering price action has been corrective to the upside. So we're expecting our next impulsive move to be to the downside. We are targeting these previous lows here, and obviously, like we just discussed on the daily, there are long-term targets for anyone that wants to be that long-term swing trader at these support areas down at the bottom there for this larger structure head and shoulders that we're going to see forming, or that we could potentially see forming over there. So that's the setup that we're looking for, sell bias setup here on Swiss yen. Just take a screenshot if you need to, or I hope you guys are writing down and actually charting your own pairs, just so that you understand what we're expecting in the course of next week. Let's go on to the daily here, NZDCAD. What we can see, guys, on the daily is that we are at some important weekly swing highs. Let's just draw that weekly structure in for you. We have that swing high, we have these swing lows here, we have those swing highs here from a weekly perspective. So we are at a potential area where weekly supply could come into could step into the market and essentially buy from these areas here of some weekly significance. So on the daily, why did I go up to the weekly? On the daily, guys, let's just zoom in here. What we can see on the daily is that structures have been violated to the downside. Daily swing lows have been violated to the downside. So that's like a nice introduction of sellers, some selling interest. We do see these swing lows here, these swing lows here, and these swing lows here, all being violated to the downside by this one nice impulsive move there. So we know that sellers are interested in selling these markets, but we are at some weekly support, so we can't be selling in this market at this point. If we want to be sellers, then we need to wait for structure to actually break to the downside and then retest this weekly support area for potential weekly resistance. So given where price is right now, let's go down onto the H4, refine this bias, discuss where our probabilities are and where this next trade could be coming from. So guys, here on the H4, if we want to be sellers, guys, we need to wait for some sell bias structure to form. So remember what we said, we see some nice sellers coming into this market. We also do see that H4, we have this nice structure that's here. So prices are still below, I would say this, I keep on removing my drawing tool. Prices are below this previous support structure there. So structure is very bearish on this H4 right now. What we also saw is that weekly structure is at support, so we could see some buyers essentially coming into this market. So if we want to be sellers, guys, we want to wait for structure to really develop or move away from this area here, because this is an area where a lot of manipulation could happen, because there's short-term or short-term lower time frame traders looking to sell this market, and there's going to be higher time frame traders also looking to be buyers at these areas here. So what we want to wait for, guys, is we want to wait for some more structure to develop in these areas here. If we get that manipulation to the downside, prices break back to the upside, and then we see that corrective structure, then we could be looking to be buyers in this market for these areas. I mean, for targets at these potential swing highs here. Otherwise, guys, if we want to be sellers in this market, then we need to be sellers at these resistance areas up top here, waiting for prices to actually pull up into these areas there. What we can see in terms of trend lines here, I'm just going to draw a quick trend line for you guys. Connecting that high, connecting these highs here, we can see that we do have a potential buy opportunity that might come once prices really violate this structure to the upside. Obviously, if we get a nice break and retest of structure, let's just draw in some lower time frame structure in there for you guys. We have that swing low, we have a swing high, we have a lower low, we have a lower high. So obviously, if we do get a violation of these structures here and then a nice corrective structure confirming this move to the upside, then we could be in for that long-term buy opportunity. Maybe into these structures here, we could be looking for our first targets or maybe full targets on this position. Otherwise, guys, if we want to be sellers, let's wait for prices to pull higher before we actually look to sell this market. So NZDCAD, just like AUDCAD, we're looking to buy maybe short term, and we're looking for long term selling opportunities when prices or after prices do push higher. So those are the setups that we're looking for on NZDCAD, AUDCAD, very similar setups. Let's just wait and see how prices develop so that we can be able to capitalize on that buying opportunity. Let's go on to USDZAR. Daily chart, USDZAR. Let's make sure this thing is still recording. Awesome, we're still recording. USDZAR, guys. Let's just remove this so we can look at the long-term structure. So long-term weekly structure, let's just draw this in quickly for you guys. We have basically these swing highs here, those swing lows there. We have those swing highs, swing lows, swing highs, swing lows, swing highs. So this is the structure that we can see from a weekly perspective. The reason why we marked these highs here is because we have seen that it has reacted from a weekly perspective over there as well as over there. So that is an important weekly level of structure that we could be looking at. Important weekly levels of structural lows that we could be looking at are those levels there. What we can see on the daily is that we are within some sort of a range. There we go. Let's just get this drawing tool back. We are within some sort of a range. Prices came in, found resistance, found support, found resistance. So now we do know that we are within two important structural levels. So if we want to be buyers, then maybe we want to be buying low. Obviously, we know that some larger time frame structure is still biased to the downside, so we could see some sort of manipulations down into these areas here before we see any long-term buying opportunities out of USDZAR. Otherwise, if we want to be sellers, then we need to be selling from previous resistance areas. So if we go down onto the H4, just to refine what we just actually looked at, what we just spoke about, we can see that prices on the H4, guys, we do have these swing lows there, swing highs, swing lows, swing highs. We have violated structure to the downside, created lower highs, violated structure again to the downside. So we could see the structure or this market create lower highs, violate structure to the downside one more time in a corrective structure, and then give us a buying opportunity. So this is one setup that we might be looking for here on USDZAR. Obviously, if we draw this trend line in at the top there, we could see that we might see a third touch structure. Obviously, first touch there, second touch there, and then third touch. We obviously look for that reversal structure before we actually maybe look to capitalize on any buying opportunities. Our first targets will be at the 90% rule of this corrective structure, which is at those areas there. Then we might be looking for any long-term targets at structural highs or at the top of this range. So this is the setup that we're looking for right now on USDZAR. We're going to be looking for buying opportunities, obviously analyzing or paying attention to how price has been correcting to or is correcting to these levels of daily support and also weekly support. So this is the analysis. This is what I'm looking for next week on USDZAR. Let's go into gold. So gold is very interesting. I kind of like gold going into this week. Gold is looking like it's going to give some very beautiful opportunities, guys. So let's get into some analysis on gold. So guys, weekly perspective, let's do this quickly. Or I don't even think we even need to do that. Let's just pay attention to recent price action. Okay, so weekly swings, guys. Okay, let's see. We can see this weekly swing over there. So we do know from a weekly perspective that these are important support areas over there. But let's just look at the most recent price action. We do see that these are weekly swings over there. So weekly, from a higher time frame perspective, these are our weekly swings. We know these are important structural levels. Also from a daily perspective, let's just move this to the center of the screen for us. From a daily perspective, guys, we can see that prices are at weekly, listen to me, weekly. We are at some daily important swing levels. So prices are pulling up into this important daily swing level over there. So we're going down onto our smaller time frames to refine what we can be, or what opportunities might give us, or what opportunities this market might give us as a buyer and as a seller. So what we can see here from a H4 perspective, let's just mark in that structure. H4 perspective, guys, we can see, let's just look at the major swings in this market over here. So swing low, swing high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So we do see this market correcting into that support area over there. Obviously, looking at, we spoke about, remember the swing highs and the swing lows. Now we obviously see that prices violated these swing highs. We violated these swing highs here. Obviously the high to have been created after violating these swing highs here are these highs up top over there. So if we look at the structure, just looking at major levels of structure that were violated, guys, is that high over there, swing high, swing low, swing low, swing high, swing low. And then obviously looking at what price is doing at this point, guys, if we go down onto the H1, we will see, so on this pair we even went down onto the H1 to observe, because price action could be giving us a setup quite recently. So what we can see, guys, is prices correcting into these levels of structure. So as a seller, guys, I would be looking for prices to actually give me, we spoke about a first touch, second touch, and we could be coming in for this third touch at this resistance area. Obviously not saying that prices can't come and give us the third touch of this larger structure before we see that big momentum to the downside. We're going to be looking for our first, I'm trying to delete this thing over here, guys. We're going to be looking for our first selling opportunity, looking at obviously how prices approach these areas over here. Depending on how prices approach these areas here, we're either going to be looking for that risk entry or that reduced risk entry. Obviously after we see that reversal structure, we're going to be waiting for prices to do that. Otherwise, guys, there is that long-term structure that we could see maybe prices actually break down, give us maybe that structure, or not complete fully at the 90% rule of this corrective structure, then push up to give us that long-term move to the downside, guys. So this is basically what we're looking for on gold. We're looking for those sell setups as price is approaching some weekly and some daily resistance at these structural areas up there. So this is a setup, guys. We're looking to sell gold. These are the obviously the scenarios that we're looking to take advantage of. If you want to be a buyer at gold, then you want to wait for prices to pull down lower. You're going to exercise a lot of patience. So yeah, guys, if you have actually got some value from this video, this is the point in time where I would appreciate you guys to actually hit that like button. Also, welcome to the watch till the end club. I love you guys that watch until the end of the video, extracting as much value and as much significance out of this video. It doesn't really help to just watch one or two pairs. It helps to watch how we analyze each and every pair, obviously seeing the tools that we use to analyze and break down every market, to find the bias, to find levels of structure, and also to pinpoint levels of interest where those trading opportunities will present themselves, guys. Now, I am T.Mayne, guys. I will see you guys in all future analyses that we do get into. See you guys in the next one, and I appreciate you guys for watching till the end of this video.